era bonito o presente pra Iemanjá quando tinha aqui. Nem pra filha.
Se você chegar, você vai se machucar.
Ai, você me corou.
Você vai começar seu calundu de novo, é? Ô, filha.
E é o tempo de Iemanjá e Oxalá.
De você.
Essa ilha só existe por causa de Iemanjá. Se ela não for lembrada com sua festa, muitas coisas poderão acontecer.
Ah, você não vai acreditar.
Você está tão linda, menina.
Well, great evening. How is everyone feeling? Very good. Good. I know that what we just viewed, it was a lot to process, right? And we got all these molecules in our brains working right now saying, whew, that was a lot. But what we want to do is kind of help you talk through some of the things that you've seen and the impact that it's had on you. And we have this incredible panel, including that director, that movie, and producer of that movie. Wow, we're excited. You made it safely too. And so, first of all, I'd just like for us again to give a hand to Tamara just for having the vision. Solo Cinema is such an incredible company and concept, and I just want to say thank you so much for being, just as the movie brought out, that we need more individuals like you who don't just talk about it, but they take action and they do something about it, right? And she's brought this to the community. And then we'd like to thank Ric Mathis, my goodness, for an incredible piece of work, and for us having the ability to just enjoy what you put together. And again, being someone who just didn't talk about all the issues, but you really brought them to the fore, and now are allowing us to really take this information, and we're going to go out there and not just be people who talk about it, but we're going to do something about it, right? Also, would like to thank the two sponsors for this evening. If we could give them a hand, that would be New York Life. And this is their African American Market Unit that is sponsoring this evening, and also Auto Negotiators USA. Thank you all so much for making this possible. What I'm going to do, first of all, is just introduce to you who your panelists are. You want to know who they are, a little bit about their background before we begin our discussion. And so panelists, if you could please stand as I call your name and kind of wave with a smile. First, we'd like to introduce you to Dorothy Fuller of James McElroy and Deal, PA. Dorothy is married. She's originally from Kinston, North Carolina. She completed her undergraduate education at UNC Chapel Hill and followed up by graduating from Campbell Law School. She currently practices family law and civil litigation with her company. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we'd like to introduce to you Larry Allen of Allen Investment Properties. Allen is a native of Columbia, South Carolina. He is a full-time real estate investor. He's a rehabber, renter, and wholesaler of real estate. He has 2 offices, one in Columbia, South Carolina, and one here in Charlotte, North Carolina, with field agents in both Atlanta, Georgia, and Greenville, South Carolina. He has an engineering background, graduating with his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Clemson University and a master's of business administration from the University of South Carolina. Thank you, Larry, for joining us. Centerio Greer, financial advisor with New York Life. Centerio is committed to fulfilling his purpose of helping others navigate through life by offering solutions to protect their assets and family, as well as retirement and overall financial strategies. Next, we'd like to introduce you to Eddie Boger, and again, Centerio, thank you for joining us. Eddie Boger, AKA the EB, the negotiator. He's the owner of Auto Negotiators USA, one of our sponsors this evening. He's a native of Concord, North Carolina, with 18 years in the automotive and banking industries. His company empowers clients with the knowledge needed to prevent them from paying too high of a premium on automotive purchases and loans. His company negotiates the entire sales and loan process and delivers the vehicle to your home, providing a more comfortable buying experience than the traditional experience, which we all know about, right? So these are our panelists, and again, we thank all of them, and we're going to get started with this discussion. You ready?
Yes.
The first thing we'd like to do is hear from the director of the film, because we want to set the tone for this discussion. And so, Rick, could you share with us what prompted you to select this particular topic for the film, and what do you feel would be the greatest takeaway that you desire from those who view it?
Thank you. I will answer that. First off, I want to thank you guys for hosting this film in Charlotte, and thank all of you guys for attending and participating in this discussion, as well as Centerio, who we spoke in Miami, and you said we was going to bring it to Charlotte, and now we're here. Thanks a lot. So the film Black Friday. The film Black Friday is a solution-based film, and it deals with how we value a dollar. So with this film, the purpose of it was to give us a platform to dialogue about money. Because as African Americans, it's just something that we don't do. We don't talk about money. The only time we're talking about money is when we're talking about what we don't have. But we don't understand the principles and how to use money as a tool and how to leverage with money and scale and grow. So that's what the purpose of this film is to bring us together so we can discuss resources as well as practical solutions that we can readily apply in the community.
Thank you very much. The next question is going to be for Eddie. Eddie, the film spoke on the fact that the issue is not that the Black community does not have money. It's the fact that many have not been taught how to make that money work for them. We see this in how many will purchase vehicles far beyond what they can financially handle, and at interest rates that just make absolutely no sense. So as you have worked with a variety of clients over the years, and are you finding that this is true? And what are some of the mistakes that you see us making when purchasing vehicles? And what is your #1 piece of advice that you could offer us?
Thank you for having me. I do believe that one of the things that I see, I've been in the car business now for 18 years, that the #1 hot button when you're buying a car is appearance. People want to look good. So when you're purchasing a vehicle, we'll pay more to look good. And unfortunately, like what you were asking, I would say the #1 thing you should do is, one, hire a representative. But seriously, what I mean by that is this. Once you select a vehicle, I would say the #1 thing you should do is continue to negotiate the entire process. What typically happens when we find a vehicle we like, or if we agree on the particular payments, then we stop negotiating at that point. And what I mean by that is we go to the finance office, and we're happy that whatever the payment was told to us, we can pay. At least we're telling ourselves we can pay it. But we're not really looking at the interest rate. We're not looking at the buy rate. The bank actually gives the dealership a rate that they can mark up approximately about 2 points. So that means that you possibly could actually have $40 to $50 less of a payment if you just ask for it. But if you don't ask for it, and they're getting paid a commission, they're not going to tell you. So one of the things that I do with my company is I make sure that you don't even go to the dealership, and we'll negotiate directly with the bank, which means we'll be aware of the buy rate, and we'll make sure you get that. So that's one of the things that we do.
Thank you. That's awesome, right? Centario. I personally found it very interesting that New York Life Insurance has a division specifically designed to target the African American community. Can you please explain what the AAMU is and how it can help us create a legacy in our community, as well as who have they partnered with to help promote their cause?
Yes, ma'am. Can everybody hear me? I want to make sure. Cool. Thank you for having me, Rick. We appreciate you. The AAMU is the African American Market Unit with New York Life. To my knowledge, when I first started in 2010, New York Life employed more African American advisors in that industry than any other company. Our team here in Charlotte is in the back. We got Charles, his lovely daughter, Matilda, Joy, AJ. We're all here to service you guys. But what we do primarily is we focus on 4 areas. Number 1, we educate our people on life insurance, how to protect the most valuable asset you have, which is your ability to get up and go earn income every day, right? Number 2, how do we save money for our children to go to college so they don't have to go borrow money from a bank, right, to get the money to go to college? Number 3, how do we aggressively save for retirement? And let's do it in a way that we can avoid as many taxes as possible on that actual retirement income. And then lastly, how do we transfer our wealth to the next generation? And again, we want to do that the most tax efficient way possible. So that's what that's the concepts that we educate our people on. 99% of my book of business is African American. I embrace that. I love it. That's what I'm passionate about. And we've partnered with some amazing people. Now, Rick, my man, that's a partner. And one of our strongest soldiers is a sister by the name of Maggie Anderson. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Maggie, read her book. Her and her husband are Harvard graduates, and they took it to the extreme when it comes to buying black. They, for an entire year, only bought from black-owned businesses. So we're talking bank, they put their money in a black bank. If there wasn't a black grocery store in Chicago, they would drive an extra 45 minutes to a convenience store just to buy groceries, dry cleaning, everything. And their studies showed if we only curbed our spending from 3% to 10% in an African American community, we create 1 million jobs just from going from 3% to 10%. So that's I would say our biggest partner, Maggie Anderson.
Wow. Next, we'd like to talk to our legal counsel in the house, Dorothy. I can tell you that as someone who coaches entrepreneurs, I personally am surprised at how many within the Black community do not understand the importance of seeking legal counsel for contracting terms, partnerships, etc. As an attorney, I am sure that you see through litigation many situations that come up that could possibly have been avoided. If, as the movie brought out, business is being conducted properly, what are some pitfalls that you commonly see that as individuals are looking to get into business that they may want to pay more attention to?
The first thing I would say is make sure that you're up to date on laws and regulations that govern businesses.
Can you
Can you hear me now? I would say make sure you're up to date on laws that govern doing business in whatever state you're going to open your business in. Make sure that you know if you need a business license. That is one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs do not know about. Make sure you know if you can use your home residence as your business address. The government has all these regulations that govern those sorts of things. Make sure that you know about employment laws, overtime provisions, things like that, tax laws, zoning. These things are very important, and I think that's why you need legal counsel to see you through these things. Another thing to make sure is that you are protecting your person from liability. There are so many different corporate structures that are put in place to protect you from personal liability. You don't want to make a bad business decision and then you have to pay for it personally. So I would definitely contact an attorney if I were going to start my own business. One thing that Monique just said is contracts. Make sure your contract is airtight. Make sure that you are protecting what's most valuable to you. Put those clauses in there that are favorable to you. That's called negotiation, as Eddie was talking about. And I think those are three big things that I see.
Thank you. Very good advice. Larry, I know that one of the moments in the film that jumps out at everyone was the gentleman who was the real estate investor that was running around making tax lien investments. I'm sure there are many in the audience who, like myself, were scratching their heads saying, what? I didn't even know that this was possible. So as an expert real estate investor yourself, could you please share with us and provide us with some insight on that particular strategy?
Sure. And you said it the right way. That's just one particular strategy that's an acquisition strategy for real estate. As far as the county is concerned, they're only interested in getting their back taxes. And so the way that the vehicle that they put in place to secure that money is they're willing to trade their lien on the property to you if you can pay that person's bill. And what happens in most counties, it varies from county to county. So they'll give you like a year, they'll give the owner, the real owner, a year to pay you back with interest, or you become the owner of the house. Now, that's, like I said, that's one strategy, and that's not always the best strategy to use because you are the owner of the house. It doesn't always wipe out the debt on the house. So yes, you can get a house for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, but you have to have the knowledge to know which houses to get so that once you become the owner, you're now in a profitable situation. You can become the owner and still lose money if you don't know what you're doing. So we'll talk about more different strategies later on tonight.
Thank you. So we just wanted to make sure though that we clarified that particular strategy since it was illuminated in the movie. So we wanted you to be clear on that. Thank you, Larry, very much. Next, we'd like to introduce you to two women that are actually not on our panel. However, their services will be of great benefit to you here in the community. A part of the discussion in the movie centered around the insecurities of Blacks to move into business or purchasing due to their fear of their personal situations. And so a lot of times our fear centers around this big C word called credit, right? So either our credit is poor, it's slow, or we ain't got none. And so this can cause a lot of anxiety for us in making business decisions for ourselves. And so we have in the room Lori Youngblood and Miranda Harris with FES, which is Financial Education Services. You're going to be able to learn a lot more about all of the different types of services that they offer. After we're done, you're welcome to visit their table. And so they will not go into all of that right this moment. However, the question that I do have for both of them that I'd like them to share with you at this time is how credit affects us. Is it really that important? And is there a starting point no matter what your situation may look like? So we're going to start off with Lori, who's going to share with us how credit affects us.
How credit affects you. You are your biggest asset. You start off in life with a number, your social security number. That number is transcended to a credit score number. As you age, either is going to be anything from 599 or less, it means poor credit. Then you mod your credit. So if you're doing 750, you're good, you're doing very well. But it affects us because it affects not just only getting mortgage or car, it is your employment, it is getting lower insurance rates, it's how you're rated. It follows you everywhere, so that's how it affects you.
Thank you. That C word is very important. Next, we'd like to have Miranda Harris, who is actually the Vice President of the Financial Education Services company and also a corporate trainer, and she's from Columbia, South Carolina. And she's going to answer the other parts of that question, which would be, is it really that important, and is there a starting point no matter what your situation may look like right now?
Absolutely. Credit is everything. Cash used to be king, but it's not anymore. Everything is about your credit scoring, and credit scores start at a 350 credit score, which means you can't get anything, and it goes all the way up to about an 850, which means how many would you like? And credit, as Lori mentioned, employment, 65% of employers check credit now to determine if they're going to even consider you for a job. So we always tell people, can you afford to have poor credit? If you have a 620 or below, you are considered to have someone with, 619 and below, bad credit. 620 is just fair. So what we do is help you to understand the power of credit. If you've got great credit and no money, you can borrow other people's money at a very low interest rate and typically get what you need. If you don't have a good credit score, you're paying more. It's costing you anywhere from $200,000 in your lifetime to $1 million in higher interest rates, in deposits. Does anyone ever get your deposit back? When you make a deposit on your electricity or your water? No. That's money that's just going down the drain. Insurance premiums, all of that's based on your credit score. So absolutely, credit is crucial in our community.
Okay, thank you. And could you answer the other part of that, which would be, because I think there are many in the room who would say, my credit is a hot mess, and I don't even know, is there a point that I can begin to get this straight, or am I just a lost cause? Anybody might be thinking that. You don't have to raise your hands, but we know it's a thought, right? So what can you say about that?
It's never, ever, ever too late. Never too late. In fact, I've had several people. I remember I had a gentleman that was 72 years old that had bad credit. His goal was he wanted to buy a home to leave his family. He had never purchased a home in his lifetime, and he was 72 years old. And we were able to clean up his credit, and within 6 months, he was able to buy that home. It doesn't matter what it looks like, it's not going to stay there. And what we tell people is the only embarrassment in thinking there's nothing that can be done is not taking action. Because people's credit scores are changing every single day. I remember prior to the real estate crash, I had excellent credit all my adult life. the real estate market crashed, and the only great thing about, or bad thing about having a lot of great credit is when things go bad, it goes really bad. So I went from excellent credit to very poor credit. Same person, treated very differently. So it doesn't matter. And I thought at that time, God, is this ever going to come back? It takes work, it takes commitment, but it comes back stronger than ever if you're committed to that process. So don't ever think, oh, it's never going to happen for me. Yes, it will. And not just for you, for generations. That's what we're talking about. I was sharing earlier, my parents didn't teach me about credit either, but I have a 19-year-old son that has a 755 credit score. Now, if you don't know what that means he can pretty much get anything he wants. But he understands that mom monitors his credit. He's not going to do that. So it's the next generation. And you just know that it's not just about you. It's about teaching your grandkids, your great-grandkids, and maybe 5 generations to come.
Thank you. All right, so with our first round of questions being answered, are you all already feeling empowered and encouraged that there is hope and there's wonderful things that we can do to improve our situations, improve and create the wealth and legacy that we would like to leave for our families. So now what we're going to do is move on to our second round of questionings. So we're going back to Ric. I'm sure that you will agree that valuable and thought-provoking materials such as what we've seen in the film are definitely of benefit, but it is of no benefit for us to keep having conversations about all these things if we're not planning on taking action. We established that. And I love, there was an article that quoted you as saying, yes, I checked up on you, that Black Friday is the Noah's Ark of economics. If you are not up on this, you risk drowning in a sea of debt. And I thought that was just such a great quote.
Thank you.
The reality is that unless we pick up and take some action as a community, it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. So our question to you would be, since you've produced this film, you've had numbers of screenings, I'm sure, all over in many cities. Is there a particular success story that has been brought to you to say, hey, because of us viewing this movie, maybe a particular individual or group of individuals actually did something that made a big difference in their personal scenarios or business scenarios as a result of the material that you've brought to them?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. There have been several success stories that have came out of viewing the film. We just screened the film at the Power Networking Conference with Dr. George Frazier. A round of applause, how many people are familiar with that conference?
Which one?
The Power Networking Conference. Well, that's one homework assignment because this conference, which is in DC and is actually going on now, which is part of the reason why I was late, is because we screened the film on Wednesday and they acknowledged me at the luncheon today, which ran over a little bit, and I drove down from DC. Wow. So, and pardon me for my tardiness because I like to, thank you, pardon me for my tardiness because I like to respect people's time, because time is something that you don't get back. At the end of the day, we all have a set number of hours on this planet, so use them very, very wisely. The impact of the film. We've screened the film from California to New York, Bermuda, London. So we've screened this film in various places. So there have been several success stories. The one that comes to mind is when we were in Newark, New Jersey in April. We screened the film at Central High School to a group of 9th graders. Wow. So we had a group of 9th graders watching the film. So one of the young ladies at the end of the film said, wow, after seeing this film, my mom just bought me an MCM backpack as well as a cell phone. But after seeing this film, we could have done something else with that money. We could have invested that money. Wow. And this is coming from a 9th grader. You know what I'm saying? So that's one success story. Another one was a young lady, you know the scene where you have the Air Jordans and the guy licks the Air Jordans. Everybody seems to get a response out of that. One young lady said that after watching this film, I must admit that I am guilty. Because I would go out in the rain with my 16-year-old son, stand in the line to buy Air Jordans with her 16-year-old son so that he can feel some type of esteem or feel like he belongs. And that's one thing too that we have to acknowledge and really address, is because as African Americans, we like to wear our money on our body. We like to present our money so it can be seen and we can look successful, as opposed to investing that money and watching it grow in 401ks or trust funds or things like that, or whole life insurance plans, which my man Satario can talk to you about. But so that's what she said. So she said, after watching this film, I'm going to buy this film, which we'll have copies of the film in the back for sale. I'm going to buy this film and we're going to go home. When I go home, we're going to sit down and watch this film, and I'm going to have a discussion with my son, because we're no longer going to spend $200 on a pair of Air Jordans. Instead of spending that on the shoes, we're going to buy stock in Air Jordan or Nike. So imagine if you take those $200 and buy stock, as opposed to buying some shoes where you wear them for 5 or 6 months and they're done. 5 or 6 months, that $200 can go to $300, can grow to $400, depending on what the market does. So those are some of the stories that have came out of this, as well as we've had families that have started investment groups after watching this film. And that's something that I challenge you all to do as well. Get your family together, doing family reunions, start investment groups. If you can't start investment groups, start smaller and just start buying household supplies together, wholesale. Because if you buy them wholesale, you get them cheaper and you can buy more products, as well as sell some of the products that you buy and get your money back. So we just have to have a shift in consciousness and start thinking differently. Once we do that, then we'll understand how to use money, and then we'll see a community that grows and flourishes.
Awesome. All right, back to Eddie. The movie pointed out that the easiest way to stay broke is to not have anything to sell, which really speaks to entrepreneurship and investments. As an entrepreneur myself for many years, I'm with you, and you're an entrepreneur as well, being passionate about this topic of entrepreneurship. So can you speak to us on the importance of Black business ownership and tapping into the resources that we currently have available to us in order to create sustainable livelihoods now and to create long-term wealth for the future?
Thank you. That's an awesome question. How many of you, if I can ask this question, how many of you have people that call you and ask you what restaurant to go to, or what's the best place to travel, or who's the plug on the cheapest television, or wherever to get it from? A lot of these things we share in our community, and these are particularly your own ideas. A lot of times we don't take those particular ideas and turn them into profit for us. What I mean by that is this. I've been in the car business now for 18 years, and 5 years ago, I walked away from a 6-figure job. And I had to walk away because I was going through a divorce. I won't get into that. But what I mean is I took what was my passion, what I liked, because I liked helping people obtain the things that they wanted. But they were obtaining them in a way, like you said, from appearance, they were overpaying. So I took that same idea and I turned it into a Black-owned business. And I would say 100% probably of my clients are Black. And it has created and far surpassed what I was making when I was working for someone else. I've now been in business for 5 years. So what I'm saying is that honor your ideas. Take what you know. There's some things that a lot of you are very passionate about. Whether it's cooking, whether it's gardening, whether it's maybe making clothes. There's a lot of things that people will pay you for your ideas. but you also have to respect your ideas. You got to understand that if they're calling you and you're giving that information away for free, then you're the only one that's going to put a value to it. And how passionate you are about it, I promise you, passion that's coming from God, which means it's always going to be successful. And this is my passion. It's very important that I help people and make sure I do the things that I know they can't do on themselves. So that's the answer to my question, to your question. It's a very good question. But honor your ideas and work with your passion. And I promise you, it'll make you very successful.
Thank you for sharing. Cynthia, I know you love sharing historical facts in your financial industry. And so can you share with us the first and perhaps most influential Black agent of our time? And then after that, if you could address for us the fact that back in the day, many of our parents worked for large companies that had stable financial plans. They retired with amazing pensions and really enjoyed their retirement years. Today, companies just don't offer what they used to, if anything at all. So also talk to us about how retirement strategies differ today compared to about 20 to 30 years ago. And so what adjustments should people make to their strategies to increase their earnings and spendable income in their retirement?
That's a lot. All right. Great question. The first African American agent that was hired in New York Life was back in 1957. Okay? And to put that in perspective for you, New York Life is the oldest and largest mutual insurance company in the U.S. They were founded in 1845. So the first Black agent wasn't hired until 112 years later. So we want to talk about a head start, right? We're 112 years behind just having one agent to educate us on the financial tools of life insurance, annuities, and things like that. So Cirillo McSween was his name, a Caribbean brother. He passed away in 2008. He actually got to see President Obama get elected the first time. But Cirillo McSween came to New York Life in 1957. No one trained him. He trained himself. They wouldn't let him in the building, in the headquarters. He ended up becoming one of the top agents in the company. And at one point, he was the #1 producer in the entire company. Of any color, the #1 producer. He ended up retiring from New York Life after a very, very successful career. He went on to own 12 McDonald's franchises. He was the treasurer to Martin Luther King. So, you're talking about right on the front lines as far as being an activist. The next part of your question, how does retirement differ today? So my grandparents, I'm blessed to still have all four. I thank God for it every day. My grandparents, they retired on Social Security and a pension, right? My granny was a teacher. My papa, he worked in the warehouse for a long time. If you are not a baby boomer, a baby boomer is the last baby boomer was born 1964. Okay, 1946 to 1964, that's the baby boom. 10,000 a day are going to turn 65 from now until the next 17 years. 10,000 a day. Wow. They are going to drain the Social Security account, basically. Okay, so us, all sitting up here, we may get a portion of what we're supposed to get, but we won't get it. So let's also look at pensions. Who in here works for a company that offers a pension? Just put your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of, maybe 100 people, right? So those two sources of income, which 2 generations ago was all they needed, we don't have any of them, right? So understand this, y'all. 401k is not enough, okay? It's not enough. Take all the free money that they'll give you in the match, right? So they'll match up to 6%, do the whole 6%. Don't do anything above that though. Everything outside of your 401k, you need to save, okay? There's a lot of ways to do it. We can help you. You got mutual funds, you got stock, you got annuities, cash value life insurance, IRAs. But understand that you have to save outside of your 401k. the ideal scenario is if you can put away 20% of your income, you're doing well. Now, I've been doing this 6 years. I can't do 20% of my income yet, but I'm saying that's my goal. Because I understand if I can save 20% every 30 days, right? I'm gonna be okay long term. And I won't need Social Security. Now, New York Life gives a pension, I'm gonna take it, right? But I won't need Social Security. Also understand that you need to invest in tax-free retirement strategies. 401k is before taxes. So whatever you're saving, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna pay taxes on all that money when it comes out the door, on the back end. So if you got $1 million, you don't have $1 million. You got about 600, right? The IRS got the other 400. So Roth IRAs, that's a great savings tool. Cash value life insurance is the best kept secret, in my opinion, when it comes to saving money long term. Cirillo McSween was the first person to say he's going to educate us on legacies, not just leaving enough money to bury each other, right? God forbid if I don't make it home tomorrow, my family, they can pay off the house, pay off the cars, my kids are going to school, my wife don't have to work if she don't want to ever again. That's a different strategy than what we were taught. But it's very, very possible, and I did that with 1% of my income. Wow. So it don't take a lot of money.
Come on now.
That's it.
Wow. All about education. You just need to have the knowledge, right? Dorothy, you spoke earlier on pitfalls that can be avoided, but what we'd like you to elaborate more on is how can attorneys help manage and or build wealth?
Lawyers are especially trying to see risk and to help you avoid it. I always like to tell my clients, litigation costs more than just doing it right the first time. If you get an attorney to look over your contracts, to draft your will, to draft your trust, imagine how much money you will save by paying us one time to make sure that your contract is airtight, that you get the right provisions, versus you being sued and having to pay for us to go to trial and everything that comes before that. On the other hand, lawyers are trying to see benefits and to help you take advantage of them. And we all love benefits. I know I do. There are so many different types of attorneys. Some that do business law, some that do family law, some that help you with your wills and your estate, some that help you with employment law when you have employees. I'll go back to estate planning. That goes hand in hand with what Centaria does. Don't let the government tell you who to leave your wealth to. We as a community have to take our wealth back, and that's one of the best ways to do that. If you know one of your children is not going to be wise with the wealth you leave them, leave it to another child who's going to build a legacy for themselves and your grandchildren. And that's one of those things that lawyers, we help you figure that out as well. Figure out how to leave your money, who to leave it to, what donations you need to make during your lifetime to help you with taxes and the taxes that come after that.
Thank you. We hear so many times, and even as the movie pointed out, that you need to own your own land. In our community, many have become so discouraged, though, with the entire process of purchasing property. They feel as though the system is not designed for us as a community of people, and so are there ways that we, without perfect credit and tons of money for down payments, can actually purchase homes?
Right, so that's I quit a 6-figure job to do exactly that. So I don't practice the tax lien strategy because, as you can see, it takes money. It takes thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to actually acquire those tax lien certificates. The foundation of my business is called wholesaling. I acquire properties with zero of my own money. But I find properties that are discounted enough where I can raise the price a little bit and I can sell it to another investor. Or I'll bring another private partner in, and we'll rehab the house or we'll rent the house out, and I'll get a part of the profit. They get part of the profit. So technically, what I want you guys to take from all of this is, you know, or if any of you know somebody that's trying to sell a house, and if it's at a discount, like as is, I can show you how to make money with that, just with that knowledge. So I want us to get away from thinking so much about money as that note. Like everybody's saying, like the movie says, if you have knowledge, you can convert your knowledge and your passion into money. You are the money. So you can afford those things, but if you keep trading your time for money, then you're right. There's only so much time that you have to devote to anything.
Oh yeah.
Another thing that so wholesaling is the strategy that I use. Even though I don't like doing it, it's not for everybody. However, it allows me to cherry pick which houses I actually rehab, which houses I sell to another investor. So I have to, for me, in order for me to have my pulse on the market, I choose to see everything, and I choose what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to sell to somebody else. So that's one strategy. It cost me $1,000 to learn how to do that. I average at least $5,000 for every property that I assign to somebody else by doing that. I've been doing this full time for 2 years. I bought that course 10 years ago. Okay, so I'm 41 years old. I'm telling you that so that you understand. So I retired from engineering after a 15-year career. So this is not easy, it's not an overnight thing. However, I could have done everything that I'm doing right now 20 years ago. Had somebody really told me how important to take it, I could have done everything that I'm doing now 20 years ago. I could have quit my job. I could have graduated from college and never took a job. You know, college is great, I encourage you to go. You need the experience. But that doesn't mean that you need to have a job. Another place that you can go and learn a lot of different strategies is called the Real Estate Investment Association, REIA. In Charlotte, we have one that's called the Metrolina REIA. Just come see me and I'll give you more details, but that's a place where they have a lot of educators come in and teach you about different strategies for real estate. So what I wasted time with is I tried to learn a whole bunch of strategies instead of making money off of one. By the time I started realizing that even though I was getting paid 6 figures on my job, they had total control over me, I picked one that I understood the most, and I stopped doing everything else. And I started making money off that one thing, and that allowed me to quit my job 2 years ago. And the last thing on that is just general. So we're talking about real estate. People say you make money in real estate. Most people make their wealth beginning in real estate. The reason for that is there's no new way to buy houses. There's no new land out there. There's no new way to sell houses. So it's all the education you ever need, it already exists. However, with any education, you have to apply it. If you can learn as much as you want, you can have all the talents and creativity and passion as you want. Until you get over the fear or whatever stopping you from taking that action, you will make zero. You will not make the potential. You will not make the money that you are capable of making that God intended for you to make. One of my associates, Derek Coffin, in the pink shirt back there, we work with like this. He and I working together now. He provides financial education. So we're talking about just wealth in general. So don't skip over the educating yourself about wealth, about contracts, about different insurance products. But don't just take something that somebody gives you. Make sure you understand why you're buying that product, what that product does for you. Make sure you understand and see in writing where you're getting that benefit. Yeah. We know we need insurance, but which insurance? Do you have enough insurance? If you don't know that, you need to hold the person that's selling you that accountable to explaining that to you, or you need a better representative. So.
Thank you. So again, we'd like to thank all of our panelists for doing such a fantastic job today, for sharing tips with us freely, free of charge, right? Which is really a beautiful thing, because it's another thing that we deal with in our community, unfortunately, is that people just want to hold on to information. They don't want to share and put some golden nuggets to be a blessing in each other's lives, understanding that this does come back around in other ways, although it may not initially go out with a financial reward. So we really appreciate you all taking the time to do that and share with us this evening. Although I was not on the actual panel, just to let you know, and again, you can visit me like the rest of the brands that are here, but my brand is called Monique Talks, and I am a public speaker, author, poet, but I am a business, I say I'm a business constipation specialist. So when your business is constipated and stuck, I give relief. I'm your gal, so I service small to medium-sized businesses that have been in existence for a number of years but maybe have plateaued and can't quite figure out what's wrong and why they are not moving the way they'd like to. And I help them to get unstuck and to move on and continue to be more marketable. And also I'm an entrepreneur coach, so any entrepreneurs that we find that entrepreneurs have such wonderful concepts in their head and in their heart, but a lot of times they're afraid or just don't have the knowledge of how to bring it to fruition. And so I help you to bring your entrepreneurial concepts to cash flow, because at the end of the day, we're interested in what? IPAs, income producing activities, correct? All right. So next, what we'd like to do, because you all have been listening to us over this period of time so patiently, but we know that you have some questions in your minds that you'd like answered, and so we're going to do a quick Q&A to allow you to have some of those questions answered. Now, we are going to take 10 questions, and then anything you have outside of those questions, please visit the tables in the back, and they'll be able to give you more specific information, okay? So who'd like to start us off? Yes. Ooh, I love it. Our young, come up here with me. Is this beautiful? This is beautiful.
It's a calm, actually, in your movie when it said what you earn affects where you live, and where you live affects where your children go to school, etc., etc., etc. Actually, even if a person is wealthy, they can live in more
She wants to say the who.
And they can actually help build the community.
That's right. Yeah.
From the mouth to babes.
And for you being so brave, what's your name? Sadaya. I have a copy of the movie for you in the back. I'm going to sign it personally. So we have to reward you when you do things like that, okay?
That's right. That was awesome. Okay. We're going to take just 2 questions because they told us that our time is wrapping. We don't want to keep you all out too late. So could we get 2 more questions? We can, yes?
The young man who spoke on real estate, do you run into or do you hear of a lot of our people are heirs to property? And particularly, I could say in the South. I can't say so much in the North, but I know that a lot of our people, but they're not even aware that they are heirs to property, and this is something they need to look into.
You're absolutely correct. So there are people that are promised property, and they're not even aware of how that transaction is going to play out. So wills are important. There's unclaimed property in every county, money, just sitting out there waiting for somebody to come and pick it up. There are, man, so knowledge is so important. They have tax, it's a funny thing, the tax liens and all of those things, by law, they have to be published. There's a small paper that you can hardly find. I can't even get my hands on it, and I stopped because I'm not doing that right now. But it's called the Mecklenburg Times. That's where this county is required to list those tax liens. You never heard of that. You're not going to hear that. Because they don't want you. The people that have that information don't want you to have that information. So that's why I intentionally don't zoom in on one thing, because that's not what it is. Your gift may be in some area that I know nothing about, but I promise you that you have to learn before you earn. If we spend our efforts on learning, everything else and then you apply that knowledge, you will be wealthy. Your power is in your knowledge, and then your execution of that, application of that knowledge.
Thank you.
Excellent. One more.
My name is Brian Johnson. I'm CEO of Johnson Second Chance Staffing, where I help people get back to work, mainly ex-offenders. So I need all your help, to be honest. But mainly I wanted to speak with the attorney. I'm out of the Durham area. I lived in Charlotte for a few years, but I'm out of the Durham area now. I'm also working here in Charlotte as well as Greensboro. And I was wondering if you can recommend me to attorneys that you would have yourself.
Most
or you.
Of course, myself. But yes, I would say that lawyers are probably your biggest source of referrals for anything. My clients, if they come to me for life insurance, which we see in divorces a lot. Hey, I've just gotten divorced. I want to make sure my kids are taken care of. So if I die, who do you recommend for life insurance? I've just recently connected with Centario, but I know who, every time I get that question, I'm going to recommend them to him. As far as attorneys go, I guess that would be specific to what you need. And that's something that I can definitely address with you if you'd like to talk after.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. We are, due to time's sake, going to need to close our discussion at this time, but I think we got a wealth of information, right? So again, we'd like to thank all of you all for coming out and supporting this initiative, and please, we ask that everyone have safe travels home, that you go back and speak with each of the representatives of each of these brands in the back, and also at the end of all of this, they will be, I know you all got tickets, raffle tickets when you came in, and they will be drawing for those raffles shortly.
And if you did not get a ticket, come see me and I'll make sure you get a ticket.
Have a wonderful evening, and remember one thing, this is what I want to leave you with. Your current situation is not a reflection of who you are and what your potential is. Have a great evening.